Good evening. It is Thursday, the 22nd of October. It's
Captain's
9,
log.
not Captain's log. It's 9:30 Irish time. If you're watching this, you're watching Broadsheet on the telly. Very welcome to the show tonight. And of course, as always, joining us on the panel, we'll go to the man who can't afford to pay his electricity bill. He's streaming battery lights around his house so he can see the toilet when he has to get up in the middle of the night. Hey, Jimmy.
I'm fine. The toilet's it's an outdoor toilet. I don't know if you can hear. A little round of applause there. I'm fine, thank you. The first day of lockdown, I have the existential dread. I have the COVID depression. I have the whole deal, but I'm rising above it. Look at that.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad you're inspiring a nation, rising above it. And
trying very much to inspire a nation. That is my goal.
We should probably get Jimmy's weekly tips for lockdown.
We should. We like going strong. You could be the glowing strong section.
And of course, the lady who needs no introduction, because if she's not introduced, she'll introduce herself. She's looking very glamorous tonight for reasons best explained by her.
I am actually looking very glamorous.
Very glamorous.
Oh, thank you, folks. No special, nothing different tonight.
Have you been beyond the 5 kilometers, Vanessa? You're very dressed up. Did you have a secret?
This is a jumper, folks.
Oh, I thought
this is like a.
It's not it's a Gansey with these shoulders, kind of a sexy jumper. It's nice.
I like that
sexy Gansey. It's nice with the shoulder. I might try that myself with some of my old Ganseys.
Thank you, folks. Oh, the compliments. I don't know what's going on here, folks.
Well.
Don't usually get all these.
I'm just glad that you read the dress code for this week. Sexy jumpers.
Okay. Have I broke the 5 kilometers? I don't think I have. But you see, I'm classed as an essential service, so I could go with gala.
Really?
All celebrities are.
Credit unions are essential services.
Good.
Of course, the big news, the only news it feels this week nearly, is here we are again. Look at us now, all locked up safely.
I know, locked up with masks this time, Neil.
Locked up with masks, but it definitely feels a different atmosphere. I went for my government-approved sanctioned exercise within 5 kilometers of my house today, and I certainly saw a lot more cars on the road and a lot more people about. I can remember the original lockdown, people would almost cross the street if you were coming towards them.
That's right, yeah.
It certainly isn't that atmosphere. And you can kind of see the chit-chat amongst the neighbours, and people have that kind of, there's definitely a different atmosphere.
Well, look at Grafton Street. Look at O'Connell Bridge just a couple of hours ago with the anti-mask guys. And there's a lot of people not going to go for this lockdown, I think.
No, I can see a reaction to it, but I don't think what we saw today is probably the way it is going to attract sort of the major objectors. I can see there being big protests, but I can see them being a bit more different than just boxing the head off each other on the street. I can't see the majority taking it out on the guards either.
So, I mean, is this going to be a case of we just have a lot of hot air from people, anger and frustration, but then we just get on it? Or is there actually something, or is this Irish watermark too? Is there enough anger and frustration? I mean, we're seeing the nursing home thing, Tony Hoolan's comments today,
yes.
Tonight. We also have the contact tracing.
Francis Black and the Shannons bringing up the thing about the junior nurses not getting paid during the last lockdown.
Yeah. So it's like the water's starting to boil, and the question is, at what point? I've always felt it's the schools that could potentially bring it down. Either schools don't close or they do close, and either way, I don't know. I don't have kids in school, but
that's when you'll have the protests. That's when you'll have them. If they close the schools, there'll be parents will stand outside schools and block roads with their kids.
Are you sure about that? Because I don't have a school-aged child, so
yeah.
I
think that's how they'll do their protest rather than.
Well, the Judith said it's more a child-minding issue than a school issue. You said that last week, I think.
Yeah, and I know that might sound unfair for parents who are very active in their school, whether they're on the Parents Association or they get involved in the after-school activities. And I know that sounded very unfair, but I do think Ireland relies a lot on schools to provide the daytime to take that childcare out of them in the day so they can go to work.
But I still don't understand the obsession with keeping the schools open, especially obviously the child minding thing is a big thing. It's clear to me that I wouldn't like to be a teacher now in a school.
No, I wouldn't either. But then I have said this before you came on as a regular. I hated school, Jimmy, right? Every single minute of it.
Not as much as me.
And I tell you,
me.
Expelled. 3 times expelled. 3 times expelled me. Right here.
The clown goes, they're very snotty, aren't they?
It's a past classical in Navan, actually, but a great school in fairness, but I still managed. Oh, you a Clongowes man, Neil? I didn't know that.
No, I was a singer boy.
Okay, and I was St. Pat's in Navan, and 3 times I was sent home. Expulsion.
But you know, sorry, taking it completely out of my head now. But I remember saying how I hated school, and with the way, you know, Derek is a teacher. That he's not here with us this week, folks. But he was talking about being a teacher. I said, you know why I'd never be a teacher? I'd have to put up with the parents. I could put up with the kids. I couldn't put up with the parents. And I think that's what I think when you say about teachers, would you be a teacher? That's one of the things, like, to having to deal with the parents is the hardest part. And I know it, like, the idea of me when I said that about treating teachers like childcare, like babysitters. I know that was a bit unfair, I suppose. Now, nobody said anything to me, nobody reacted to it, but I could see if I wouldn't be surprised if somebody did, and but I do think that takes a huge burden off working parents, the school hours, because we don't have a major childcare or community care sort of network here that isn't just baby room, toddler room.
It's true, and in
fact, Montessori.
And Mary Lou McDonald talks about this, and she's brought it up a lot in the past, particularly coming up to this lockdown. It's a big issue, but it's interesting too. We were talking just before we come on about, or were we just now a minute ago, about our various, hating school in our various schools, and how that's changed so much. Now I get a real sense when you're talking about teachers and kids that lay teachers essentially, right? But my generation, we were the last of the De La Salle brothers tormentors, and the idea of going down to those guys and telling them that you didn't like the way your kid was being taught, or you didn't like it the way, was anathema. That never happened, except for, interestingly enough, I was thinking about this the other day because a chap got in touch with me from Boston that I grew up with, and his brother. There was a particularly sadistic brother we had when we were, in second class, around about there. I don't know how old you'd be. What would you be in second class? 7, 6, that kind of, very young. And he used to beat us with leather straps and canes. And Norman Murray, I shouldn't have said his name, but Norman, oh shit, too late, right? Anyway.
Make it all nice.
Particularly, recalcitrant kid. And he gave him an awful whack one time, an awful beating. And we remember his mother, who we knew, we were all terrified of. She lived in a terraced house just up from the school, and her name was Florrie. And she comes walking down with the big bosomed woman she comes strolling down and took him to task. And that Sunday, Norman's arse was on the cover of the News of the World.
Wow.
Now, so that's kind of where that was the dividing line for me, where what Vanessa's talking about now, this kind of very civilized, where your child is not getting the correct education, so you go down and have a word with the teacher. That was impossible. That didn't happen 35 or 40 years ago.
Yeah, it was a bit like the church. You didn't,
unquestioning.
It doesn't matter. The teacher's always right. And I would have been I'm probably the last generation of that, where corporal punishment was allowed in primary schools. And Jesus, I went to a pretty posh primary school. I went to Eglinton, folks.
Right.
And they battered us. There was a woman there in 5th class, my God almighty. I remember our dad came down to this tour, and he was roaring. He was a real North Cork man, real thick accent. He was, I don't hit my children at home. I don't fucking send them into you to be battered. But yeah, but that's changed, you know, and that Mike, I think kids like school a lot more now, and of course that's all changed, so there's no point in us looking back in it. But I do kind of bring this back to where we started here. I think if they do close the schools, and it makes sense that they do, if this is all that certainly what Tony Houlihan is letting on, why are the schools open? That doesn't make sense at all. And then so if they do close the schools, I think that's when the kickback from the majority will happen.
But so yeah, this is the thing. So I was looking at some data today. I didn't have a chance to put it into a fancy graph or a slide, but the Irish Health Service released some data on where the outbreaks are occurring across society in Ireland. And, you know, given we're in a full lockdown, it's quite surprising. So there's a lot of talk about gyms the last 2 days because of that gym out in Blanchardstown. That was
the one that won't close, yeah.
Yeah, and they did close. So there's a lot of talk about gyms and safety. So just looking at this, I can't share it here because it's not even in a shareable format, but just looking at, maybe we'll do it on the site tomorrow. Sport, activity and fitness accounted for 19 overall outbreaks out of 5,590 outbreaks that Ireland has seen. Schools, which bearing in mind the duration they've been open, has accounted for 118 outbreaks out of 5,590. Now it's still a low number, but the schools are open yet. You know, just to use gyms as an example, gyms have had less associated outbreaks, but they're closed. Interestingly, while the schools have a high number of outbreaks comparable, colleges have a very low number of outbreaks.
No one's in them. They're all online, doing their course work.
Yeah, perhaps. Like I say, I'm just looking at these figures as is. But there are some you know, areas that are incredibly low or virtually zero. There was one, the beauty industry, which I think has zero. Where has it gone on me now? Personal grooming services, 2 outbreaks.
Really, like a hairdresser's, for instance.
Yeah, hairdressers.
Why are they closed down then en masse? That doesn't make much sense, really. You know, should there have been no gradated type of
anything that has a pre-made appointment shouldn't be shut down, like the hairdressers, the waxers.
Yeah, well, I mean,
if the stats back it up,
the primary driver. Have a guess. What do you think the primary driver is? There's one that stands out. It accounts for nearly 4,000 of the 5,590 outbreaks. What is it?
Social gatherings in houses.
Private houses. That's the biggest driver.
And I'm looking at my neighbours and I'm going, who's having the parties? Because they never invite me for starters. And there's like, are they that prevalent? They clearly are, you know.
Well, I mean, they must be. I mean, when you get to our age, Jimmy, it's, you know, we're in bed by 10 o'clock with our hot water bottle, you know.
No, but I think people have gotten used to entertaining more at home, and people would have, as Simon Harris said, dicky up the curtains, and they all got their jobs done, you know, over March, April, May, you know, like you couldn't. Now, in fairness, in Crumlin, people are actually very, very house proud. They're always doing something. And in fact, even in the credit union there, we're always amazed that there isn't more houses with swimming pools and balconies and hanging gardens with the amount of house loans we've written up over the years, you know.
So Crumlin's the Bel Air of Dublin, is that
it's a constant. Myself and Catherine, the operations manager, we're pals as well. We can't get over it. Like, so we were thinking there, geez, there must be 50-meter swimming pools under some of the houses around here. But when we're walking around, and there was a different feeling about it the last time around than it was today. Everyone was doing their jobs. Everyone was getting work done. And like the amount of houses now, I've seen more houses in the last 3-4 weeks around here. And it's not like I'm looking in people's windows all the time, viewers. I do live in a very densely populated area. The load people have gotten the new, you know, sort of the insulating and the cozy boards and the windows. I think there's a grant available.
That's the Green Party retrofitting. Is that what's happening there?
Probably.
Oh, you've gone. What's happened? There you go.
Oh, I'm here.
There you're back.
Yeah, no, I think I'll fix this out in a sec. But maybe because people have sort of spent a lot of time at home and they've maybe, I don't know, this isn't meant to be a suggestion or an idea or a solution, but I think people have gotten used to the idea of entertaining at home over the last 6 months, doing their gardens, putting in barbecues, getting in garden furniture, you know, getting the big screen TV and stuff like that. I do think people are entertaining more at home because they were stuck at home for the last 6 months, and the money they didn't spend on their 2 weeks in Benidorm and wherever. You know, holiday loans. There was no holiday loans this year. I know from the credit union, like there was little to no holiday loans this year, but there was all home improvement loans, back to school loans.
I haven't seen any studies. I would like to. I haven't seen any studies that shows if we close the pubs, does that dramatically increase house parties, or if we open the pubs, does that, reduce it? And is it just robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing? I haven't seen any stats on like that. But just one final thing on those figures. So week 42 of the year, there was 649 outbreaks in Ireland. Again, private homes were the biggest drivers of that, 461 of the 649. The next largest item is schools. It's only 46 outbreaks only, I use in inverted commas, but that's the next biggest one. Travel is 0. All those naughty Americans haven't been spreading the disease.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, travel has been very low. There's 53 travel related over the duration as well. So when you look at these figures, we wouldn't have had this kind of data in March, but when you look at this on paper, it does kind of beg the question: if we have this information, why aren't we targeting the problem? Now, of course, this is an armchair perspective here, no medical background, but it does. The question I'd ask is, why aren't we putting more target on the problem areas? We're bringing these fines in level 5. Why didn't we bring them in level 3 when we were? I hear mixed messages about, fines work and fines don't work, and you hear a lot of mixed messaging on that. So I think it's fair to say, getting back to the original point, that people are very jaded at this. People are tired. People aren't as supportive, and with all of these, bad news after bad news between the contact tracing disaster, which Paul Reid has accepted responsibility for, the nursing homes, Tony Hoolan's comments tonight, and then, as you said, the nurses not being paid. If bringing it back to the schools, so if people are now stuck at home for 6 weeks working from home, and then the schools close, that's going to have a huge impact on people who are working from home. Or if the schools stay open and the unions aren't happy, there's a strike. It could be a strike. I think this is going to be a long 6 weeks. This is, who knows what it's going to look like in 2-3 weeks post Halloween.
It's already grim. The first day is.
Well, I tell you, you'll know. Next week is the midterm break. I tell you that so then we're into sort of the end of the second week of this. I think that will be the turning point as to people's tolerance for this.
So you're pinning you think the tipping point is the schools? I mean, I wonder, what's happening.
I think it is for families.
Well, what's happening in Grafton Street again, as I predicted with kids, maybe this is happening sooner. Now, kids, that's everyone from 16 to, 28 maybe. And everyone's seen the footage of Grafton Street last night, right? It must have been 1,000 kids there doing that.
That was an impromptu get together, though. That wasn't an organized.
I know, but I mean, that's it's emblematic of how they're feeling. My own daughter, she's not home. She's gone missing for 3 days. She said, I'm going off with my friends, and she's in Greystones. So she's coming home tonight, I think. So that's not her normal. Wild, great. But in fairness, that's not her normal carry on. So, but she's just, kicking the boat out. And now I think that she's hung out with her friends. She's coming back and she's going, fuck this. I have to hang out for 6 weeks with you people. You know what I mean? When I could be partying with my friends. And I think that might be more of a tipping point with a lot of that age, because I had said it before, if I was that age again with this, I don't know how long my tolerance would last for this. And also being accused and denigrated for being young and wild. I mean, that's what kids are.
They are. And the other thing, I think, you go back to the protest today, and that tends to be the maskers and the anti-maskers. It still tends to be very loud amongst certainly the people around today's one. There's they tend to be very much the whole thing's a pandemic. It's a scam.
Pandemic,
It's
yeah,
a con,
yeah.
rather than, you know, maybe it's not as serious, or maybe there's no need for this, or maybe there's the sort of the more scientific reason, like say Dr. Marcus de Bruin approach, you know, what he has to say about it, and there's more GPs now coming out about it, and I think over the next few weeks you will see a lot more people wondering, how is it that you've got to this point and but with all the people managers in the HSE and HICWA and in private healthcare, that you still haven't managed to sort out payroll for student nurses. Like, I did payroll myself for years, so I know how long it takes. It's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
To set someone up. Like, why is it that you can't cope with a surge now when you've had a top up of 3 billion and you've had all this length of time?
We kind of covered this. What we
no,
talked
I know,
about,
but you see, Jimmy, I think that's where the people that will really hit the streets will be the people who are asking those questions.
Yeah.
How the hell have you ran up this massive deficit? And yes, you haven't got the contact tracing sorted. That's telephone lines and pens and paper, lads.
It's a joke. But I mean, also there's, like me, and I presume you guys, I mean, for the last lockdown, I've been doing what I told, even though I'm not, that's the first time in my life. Okay, I'll stay in the house. I'll do, now if I drive 6 kilometers, I get a 60 quid fine or 1,000 quid fine. That's, you know, I'll have a huge problem with that.
But you see, that's the point. They're penalising us. We're all cooperating. We're all wearing our mask when we go in to buy the Cork Examiner. We're all doing this, right? And we're staying in our 5 kilometres and we're being good, right? But why are we having to? The kickback will be, why the hell are we? Why is this happening to us? They've had 10 months, full wages, flexi time, overtime, and they've done nothing. Like the fact that they couldn't organise payroll or contract tracing. I mean, if you actually look at all the sort of the spin footage of setting up the contract tracers, people being drafted in from the army, they were being, redeployed as contract tracers and all this. It was all spin. All the testing centres all around the country, lovely, well-produced videos, driving through and, you know, getting your test done and, you know, lads, but in actual fact, it was all fake.
It's already started. I see they've done that in the Aviva yesterday. There was some footage of the Aviva yesterday. No, I'm not there. That's in Ringsend. I'm here. But, and it was like the same in March, cars driving in. Is that actually happening? Is it really, or is there some theatre going on again now? You know what I mean?
I have no idea, but I know someone close to us that had a test on Monday, and he was told to get a taxi from out to City West.
Lads, you know, seriously,
told to get a taxi out to City West and a taxi back, and he did get a text message then to say it was negative, but he had to organise his own contract tracing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
But to see, I don't. If this was the sort of the sort of the mishappery and the bit slip shoddy back in March, April, people would have worked along with it. But I don't think people are prepared to listen to them tell us, and they still haven't managed to do the job. I mean, there's where did I say CPL, the recruitment agency, have collected millions in fees, and barely anyone's actually been engaged. It's like we're throwing money at this. We're just throwing money into this, and nothing is working.
Well, it's interesting because if you zoom out a bit, I was talking to my record label today in Hamburg, and we had some things we were going to try and do in October, November. It's not going to happen now. I said, "What's happening there? 11,000 cases today, and she said, we're heading the same way you are, right?" So the Germans, who have been doing pretty well with this, if they actually start getting up to critical mass in terms of infections and start locking down and stuff again, do you think that there'll be the same reaction from the same groups of people, the mothers of or the parents of children? You know, will we have this? Will that in Spain? They're going to be locking down again. Sweden are talking about lockdowns now for the first time. The poster boys of an alternative way to deal with this. And
just on the Spain thing, because Spain is kind of complex. So Spain is you've got the Prime Minister of Spain, but each region, there's a number of different regions, and they all have a president. And the president has a certain amount of authority. The reason why Madrid and Catalonia got out of control was obviously Catalonia and Madrid would always be at loggerheads.
Yeah.
But the Prime Minister is, say, on the left, but the president of Madrid is on the right, it's the opposing party.
Okay.
So in Madrid's case, the president didn't want to impose restrictions because she obviously didn't want to lose faith with, her voters. So you could kind of see she was egging on the prime minister to bring it in. So it's kind of out of her hands. So he intervened and brought in restrictions, which then the president, I know it gets very confusing, because the president is below the prime minister.
That's right, yeah.
The president then sued the prime minister, won, so the state of alarm was lifted, but they put the restrictions in place anyway. What Spain is doing its best to avoid lockdowns unless absolutely necessary. So they chose the 500 cases per 100,000 as the kind of threshold before you have to get strict. So the region I know most about is the Valencia region, which runs from Valencia right down to, down past Alicante. So Irish people would be familiar with the southern part of Valencia region. So they have a population of 5 million. I've talked about them before, what they've done in terms of teaching. They've reduced class sizes from 26 to 12. They had a holiday weekend a couple of weekends ago, and there was some partying, as you would expect, and in some certain towns, it caused some spikes. Restrictions were brought in specifically in those towns, but now what's happening is the Spanish government is proposing curfews. Now, there's a big argument out whether you have to impose a state of alarm again. But when you look at the map and where the viruses are, the Valencia region is one of the best, if not the best, performing region in terms of cases. And there's areas where there's no cases and the cases are plummeting. However, the west of the country, there is a region that has gone into a lockdown as a last resort, and the same in the north. So it is kind of different, depending on where you go. But they're using a lockdown as very much a last resort. So the Valencia region is bringing in a curfew. They've just confirmed it tonight from midnight to 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. because they are saying parties are a problem. So rather than this whole blanket thing of let's shut down retail and non-essential, and in fact some of the presidents are arguing, let's do the curfew at midnight, not at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. like they're doing in France, so at least the hospitality sector can have some form, because that's obviously the busiest time. So there is a recognition there. So I of course the proof's in the pudding. The figures are still going up in Spain, but at least there's seems to be a wider kind of approach thinking. They obviously have the hospital capacity as well. It's not like Ireland, but Spain is a little bit more complex because you often hear Spain is having this, that, and the other. There's political reasons which have slowed reactions down in certain regions. Valencia is fairly responsive. There's no infighting between the president and the health minister. Some regions, the health minister and the president, there's been some disagreements there. But Valencia, the health minister and the president are fairly well aligned, and the president's fairly well aligned with the prime minister as well. So you don't see any of that. And I think that's probably contributed to why they've been very fortunate with the managing of cases. But they react certainly that region has reacted very fast whenever there's a spike, whenever there's an issue. They're very transparent as well in their press conferences and saying, here's where the outbreak has happened. They also comment on whether they feel it's controlled or uncontrolled, depending on the nature of it. So it's very, very different in terms of how they communicate. But just to throw some color on that, very starkly contrasts, the approach we've taken here. And obviously in Spain, fines, there's that famous footage of a lady who was a confirmed COVID case who went swimming in the sea, and the police went in and dragged her out and she was arrested. Nothing like, we have fines for passing 5 kilometers in Ireland, but there's no fine if you don't turn up for your COVID test, which we know 50% of people don't turn up for their second COVID test. We know there's no fines at the moment, there's no fines if you are a confirmed COVID case and you leave the house for non-essential reasons. But if you go 5 kilometers beyond your house and you don't have COVID, you can be fined. So it seems to be
hang on there now. Helen McEntee was on the couch the other night. I think it was with David McCullough, and she gave the impression that you'll be asked, and then just say you're out for a run and you're 10 kilometers from the house, Neil, right? And they'll pull you up on it, and you say, "Oh Jesus, I forgot." And if you run back then straight away. They let you off. I got the impression from Helen McEntee, it was very much you'd be pulled up in it and then you'd be given a chance to kind of change your mind and go back home or straight away.
I don't think that, to be fair now, and certainly thrown back to the first lockdown, I didn't hear of anyone who was exercising who actually got told, see 5 kilometers, even cyclists. It was more motorists. And certainly, when I was out running during the first lockdown, I passed plenty of checkpoints. I was within the 2 kilometers, I think it was at the time. I never had a raised eyebrow or a question from the guard. So I don't think they're really targeting that. It's more the motorists. But I know there was fines given out. I'm not suggesting that necessarily go the Spanish route of here's your fine and question it later, a bit like the way clamping is, but a very different approach. But again, looking at bigger picture, what difference did it make? Cases have rocketed in a lot of regions.
Yeah.
Well, and France has put the curfew in, so Spain, it is going that way. Germany is going that way, it appears, and that's the question. Will that happen? What we're just talking about here, this kind of lowering of being into adherence to this lockdown, is this going to be a Europe-wide thing, a worldwide thing, possibly?
Well, if you think about it, the whole idea of the circuit breaker thing, I mean, particularly Ireland and Northern Ireland should just do an entire one together, and if they're keeping the airport open and the ports of entry open, then those countries, like if the entire, let's just say Western Europe just did it, that would make this whole circuit breaker a lot more sense. If everyone in our in Western Europe did it at the same time,
can you imagine
lag.
Can you imagine trying to convince Edwin Poots or Arlene Foster that we should adopt a countrywide?
Tags are spreading it. Did you see that?
Tags are spreading it. Dirty tags with their lads.
And then you'll see Sammy's fingernails and eating his ice cream. Jesus.
Oh, Sammy. But so imagine sitting those guys down and trying to convince them, look, we should have a countrywide, an island-wide approach. I mean,
well, they'd ask for the money first. If they got the money, they would have no problem.
For sure.
We'd have to get Bill Clinton over and do updates to the Good Friday Agreement again, and we'd probably have it in place by 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he's probably cocooning. Do you know what? He's probably afraid to open his front door now with everything that's happening with
for many reasons. Yes, indeed.
Neil, can I talk about my little guy behind me?
I think people are wondering what's going on behind you. It's a very low resolution image. You better tell us what's going on.
It is, and I'm sorry, I'm not very good at that. This was a quick dummy together. Like behind me is Finn. Or sorry, the other one, Finn. He's one of the little monsters in the credit union movement's ad campaign, and I was part of. I wasn't on the creatives, but I was on the committee, let's say, that kind of shortlisted this campaign, and Finn is sort of the lead character of a whole load of different little monsters, and I love it because it's Finn in them. It's like demonstration that all walks of life are equal in the credit union cooperative movement. So I was very anxious that this campaign won, but that's not why he's behind me today. Is that you'll also see these little awards. I forget that this is in reverse. There's a string of awards are behind there. There's actually 6, and these awards are the CX Award for customer service every year. And the credit union, the Irish credit unions have won it for the 6th time in a row. They've topped the poll. So this year, with the top 10 were Pennies, Marks and Spencers. Hang on, I'll call them out for you now. Pennies, Marks and Spencers. On Post were number 3. Sam Macaulay Pharmacies were number 4. CityLink Travel were number 5. Peter Mark were 6, Boots Pharmacies were 7, Aldi was 8, and M&S were 9. Lush Retail were number 2. Joe, the crowd that make the bubble baths. I think Ryanair were 77th, Aer Lingus were 28th, the Gardaí were 97th. They were all up there in the lates, where for the 6th year in a row, the people of Ireland have voted the credit unions the best customer experience. And I'm very proud of that, because people forget that our organisations are governed by volunteers, and these are where the people on the street make vote and support it. So 6 times in a row we've topped the poll and won this award. So I just wanted to put that out there for everybody.
That's my round of applause.
Congratulations, Vanessa.
I know it's not to do with me; it's to do with the members voted for it. But I just always feel if it was a bank in the top 10, there'd be ads on the telly telling you, you know, or
you have to settle for a bit of pimping out on Broadsheet.
I'd have to pimp it out. So I just wanted to get to have it. You know, it's. I remember when we got the 5th one last year. We said, "Geez," because we were told we were on Puss beat us, and then we got the announcement came out, and then we couldn't believe it, and then it came again this year. So, yeah. So there you go. The credit unions 6 times in a row winning customer experience of the year.
Congratulations.
Anyway. Congratulations.
No, congratulate the movement.
Jimmy, just to go back to the restrictions, Janet in the chat pit has mentioned about Paris, that there's a joke in Paris. If you're single and you're looking for a man in uniform, all you have to do is go out to your front door now. So maybe it's a good thing. But it does kind of lead to the question, what has romance been like for people, during lockdown?
What are you asking us for?
What are you asking me for? Yeah.
What are you asking us for?
I do know of somebody. I'll keep this vague in case they're watching. I do know of somebody who not living in Ireland, and she was doing the online dating and doing the Skype dates and all the rest during the lockdown in the UK. And she met somebody who she kind of clicked with. They were in touch. They were talking for a while. And then he put it to her about they should meet up, but he revealed he was immunocompromised. So he suggested this whole bubble thing. And so she agreed to it, but it meant that she couldn't socialize or meet her friends if she wanted to meet with him, kind of thing. So long story short, they hit it off. They got into a relationship, but she pretty much she's pretty much severed in-person contact with her friends as a result of that. Would you do that for love? Would you do that for, Oh
yeah, but I would do anything for love, but I wouldn't do. What is it? No.
I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that.
Won't do that. I always wonder what that was, but I did wonder. I know my daughter is. She's active in the dating scenario.
Oh, in the dating scene, Jesus.
Well, yes. Well, let's not go any further than that. But and her group of friends. I asked her about that. I said I was curious. I mean, seriously, how do you hook up with someone anymore? Even just on a hookup basis, kind of thing.
On apps, sir.
Well, Tinder and all that, but still, you're going to meet some strange person. You don't know how many people they've been in touch with or contact with, and.
It's like people are treating. It's like sexually transmitted diseases, except people are treating this more seriously, perhaps.
More seriously than HIV, absolutely. I mean, I think people are still getting it on. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, if Fluffy's anything to go by, God Almighty! But come here.
Steady. I'd like a little bit more. Expand on that, please.
Fluffy's he's sort of the broadsheet human gland. He's just one big giant gland.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right.
But he though he is taking lockdown quite seriously. But apparently there's a new thing between the gay community that he's in, that scene that he's in. They now have friends with benefits, so that they isolate together, or whatever. I'm not going to go any further than that. Okay. But even I know the slow set was gone anyway. In nightclubs and stuff back, that we were used to like. But it absolutely, there's no return for all this sort of thing now. This is never going to come back.
Well, that's the interesting thing. All of this stuff, we're such an adaptive species that already. I watched something. What did I watch just the other night? Even the Grafton Street thing. That horrible, my baby's got no money, he's got so strong beliefs, how the fuck that is, from the 90s, right? That horrible dance anthem thing. And I just saw all those kids out doing that thing in Grafton Street. I said, that looks actually alien to me now, already, after 7 months, seeing kids jumping up and down, whatever that dance thing is. And, we already, we joked about the handshake and the hug and they are consigned to the dustbin of history already, They're not coming back. None of that stuff is coming back.
We never know. Maybe there might be
they
just
will
this
come back.
massive knee jerk when everything comes back that they just
okay.
make up for everything.
Let's look at things. I mean, I am in a mildly depressed.
You are in a bit. You are. Well, I'm not. I think you're more grumpy now than depressed.
A bit of grumpiness.
Grumpy.
Well, okay. We don't red right. But it's like this is not going anywhere very soon. It's not going anywhere for. I'm thinking years, right? It could be a decade, really. No matter what happens. And that's why now as we go on, you talk about Marcus de Bruin, Dolores Cal, like any of that Brandenburg Concerto, what's it called? The Guggenheim.
The Barrington.
The Barrington Declaration. That thing, which the Guardian are at real pains to discredit. I actually checked out the first 15 of those people that signed it. They all checked out.
Yeah.
Now, there was obviously the usual Lord Screaming.
John did an answer a broadsheet reader with the TD Michael McNamara.
That guy, yeah, okay, him as well. He's another dissenting voice, yeah.
But you see, funnily enough, when you listen to him, he's actually not dissenting. He's actually asking the right questions.
That's the point. That's the point.
He's not dissenting at all, and he comes across as very reasonable. And the sort of questions a judge at a tribunal would be asking. Do you know what I mean? And his answers were actually, viewers, if you get a chance to listen to it, it's the video under ours now on YouTube under this show. Do give it a listen to. He's asking the right questions, and he's insisting on getting an answer. He's not like, say, I'm not going to name any other TD but he's not asking questions to start a fight and get the news spin and get the cycle and have the drama on him. He very considered, and he does wait for the answer. And if he doesn't get the answer, he goes back to it, or he promises to follow up. A former member of the Labour Party, I think a huge loss to the Labour Party, I'll be honest. I don't know what happened there, but a fantastic asset for Clare, definitely. And that interview that John did, now I don't know whether there's going to be a follow-up or not, but it was exceptional. And it, like I say, he's not dissenting. And when you're asking the questions, though, we are being treated as anti-mask or dissenters or anti. We don't believe it. It's not true because the three of us are cooperating, but we still think it's a load of shite.
Yeah, but I use the term kind of a little bit not strictly seriously, and it's like the interesting thing now is that I mentioned another person I was talking to today who would be instantly dismissed as a raving conspiracy theorist, and that is just not the case, actually, if you talk to this person. Now, I can't agree with everything he kind of expounds on and everything he explores, but he's not a raving lunatic, you know what I mean? And the same with Dolores Cal. I don't think she's a raving lunatic at all. I would have a problem with her. Hello, who's that? What happened there? Here we are. There you are. Me. What the hell?
That was me.
Maybe a problem with our politics, but when just talking, we instantly dismiss these people. That's what the Barrington thing is all about. That's very interesting that there are, not dissenting voice, but an alternative voice.
I spoke with Marcus on 2 occasions, and everything he said made sense to me. And if I'm not believing it, I'm not following it. And he's very, very credible. Now, I think the reaction has been some of the people that are at one of the protests he was with. And now there's a couple of them now I absolutely, like, Jimmy, if you and I were doing the councils again, we wouldn't be seen near them. Do you know that kind of way?
Right, okay.
I'd be very careful about it. But he's absolutely sincere. And what he says makes a huge amount of sense. Very much the same way as Professor Hennigan makes sense. And again, this Michael McNamara. So not everyone is these people out on Grafton Street screaming blue murder.
No,
or calling it a conspiracy of Bill Gates, this, that, and the other.
No, like everything, it seems to be very nuanced, and nobody fucking knows what's going on clearly. So, I mean, everything should be on the table for a discussion. There's no doubt about that. Certainly in the scientific community, and the academic community.
This is the thing, Jimmy. It's like the protest in our, that thing in Ireland. I look at those fucking idiots protesting. I think we have to be careful that just because somebody asks questions or just because somebody doesn't agree with lockdown doesn't mean that they're pro-virus or pro-disease, which is a term I saw thrown around today. It's important that we ask questions. It's important that we have people like Michael McNamara. What I think disappoints me, or not shocks, but disappoints me the most is that it feels like Michael McNamara is the only intelligent voice in the Dáil who's asking questions.
Yes, that's a disappointing.
Well, you see, you have the three biggest parties other than Sinn Féin are under the government. Three parties that's a whip vote. Sinn Féin are supporting lockdown all the way. And most of the left are as well. Richard Boyd Barrett, Paul Murphy, they're all supporting lockdown as well. So the only opportunity for a voice to sort of ask questions are the independents, and some of those are supporting lockdown. And so Michael it was going to stand out. And oddly enough, the fact that he was elected chair of this COVID-19 committee would suggest that there's a lot of people on the party whip vote that wanted him to be the chair for a reason. Now, you could read a conspiracy into that if you like, but that doesn't surprise at all. But in the same way that is Catherine Connolly in Galway got the Lashcan Corla job, some people broke the whip there. So I would suspect there was people wanted him specifically to be the person to chair this committee, because they all love their committee jobs, and chairing one is a gig. Like, they love it. There's all politicians, particularly backbenchers, would love that. It's a key role to try and get for yourself, especially if there's another election in the short term coming up. But a very impressive man, very impressive. And I think I'm not going to, I'm not going to say I'm a huge fan or anything, but I did find him very believable. And it was just so great to see an independent politician.
Now
it's so substantial.
Well, it is an interesting thing that you pointed out, that people for profit and Breed Smith and the left, but because there is this overarching thing of clear governance, and in fairness, I mean, even the as far left as you want to go, or as far right as you want to go, maybe for that matter, but it's clear that we have to support the government in this, because this is all we've got. It has, or else it's just chaos and anarchy. Now, however, I don't think there's, like, Nevitt and in Stephen Donnelly and his minions and his are these discussions taking place as well? I wonder about what Neil pointed out about Spain there. I mean, maybe that's this blanket lockdown approach maybe is not the best one. Maybe that should have been a little more nuanced before.
Well, Micheál did rule out curfews. He said he's not into curfews because.
Well, I think it's a bit like the masks as well. People. The idea of having curfews again in Ireland is not great, because we had them in the 80s. Like, you won't remember, Neil, because you were too small.
Given the choice in a curfew and a lockdown, I know which one I'd rather pick.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I get that, but you see, at the same time, it doesn't matter what side of the house you vote on. You do know this has to stop, whether the virus is beaten or not, or it's moved on. This has to stop at some point.
Well, but this
just can't go on.
We've been told, Micheál Fahed's, that it's in all likelihood will be yo-yo lockdowns. And there was the article in the Times that showed that some senior politicians feel that we could be back in lockdown by January or February if we come out in December. I mean, we're not coming out of lockdown in December anyway. It's hoping we'll go back to level 3. which again still limits a lot of people who can't work, social gatherings. Is it level 3 plus? You know, the living with COVID plan is toilet paper. Let's be honest. It's not, we haven't been in, well, Dublin certainly hasn't been in on any level on that plan since it was brought in. So that's toilet paper. So what are we coming out to? We're going to have future lockdowns. There's a pandemic, fair enough, but the communication strategy has been awful. How much money has the government spent on communication officers? They're hiring media people to be their communication.
They should fire them all. It's shocking.
Well, I think the difficulty is this new government that nobody seems to know who's actually the Minister for Health.
There's two ministers for well, there's clearly two, and there's two Taoiseach now as well.
Yeah, well, we haven't. Leo's been pretty quiet this week.
Well, since his major faux pas last week, I mean, he has to stay quiet. He can't.
Yeah. It's interesting. It just occurred to me there when we were talking about Neffet and Stephen Donnelly. Like Tony Hoolan, when he's done with his committee here, his committee meeting with the boys at Neffet, so he goes back to his office, which is probably next door to Stephen Donnelly's in the Department of Health. Do you know what I mean? So I wonder what kind of relationship they have there in the canteen or in the men's loo.
Sorry, Vanessa, I have to pick you up on something. It didn't hit me first, but Lily has asked in the chat bit, and it's fair because I actually have no idea what you're talking about either. What curfews in the 80s? I was alive in the 80s. I went to school in the city centre in the 80s, travelling from the suburbs.
If you were up north at all, there was curfews. There would be barrier would come down on the road.
I was only an innocent Talman.
And we had quite a few in Cork. There would have been one or two would have been imposed.
In Cork?
Say when, when what was his name? The border fox, Desi
Maguire.
When he was kind of being scooted back and forth between Passage West and Passage East across the estuary. Stuff like that. The morning of the Brighton bombing, I was going training that morning, and they stopped the car. It was about 6:30 in the morning, because swimming we used to be in the pool at 7 a.m. or whatever, and the amount of army guns, and they tried to turn my dad around, and of course Leo Foran wasn't having a bit of it. You know, fuck them, they're grand. Leave, who gives a shit? What are you worried? What are you asking us for? You know, and like it was, there was very strict. So it was very regional now as well. Wherever there was active cells, and this was hunger striker time as well. I'd say Cork City had a load of bomb scares right up till 84, 85.
But curfews?
Yeah, well, definitely. There was definitely curfews in Belfast and in Bangor. And
we know about
when Shergar was kidnapped as well. There was, yeah. And actually, nightclubs would have had to shut at 11.
Yeah, learn something new every day. I was less about Shergar and more about Rory Gallagher's guitar when that went missing. That was a bigger story.
That was a big deal, all right, yes.
And it came back as well.
Came back.
We're risking off topic. Derek was hoping to join us tonight, but I'm judging from comments there, he's still not online. He's got some family occasion. He was going to talk about how he was visiting San Francisco today. San Francisco, the tiered system they have in California, San Francisco is now on the lowest tier of restrictions, which I think still equates to a level 2, level 3. There are limited numbers in stores and all the rest. Derek hasn't been so transparent when providing the stats on what level San Francisco are actually case-wise, because I had struggled to believe that they had low cases given they are a densely populated city, but he's not here to defend it, so we can't ask. But
I really wanted to talk to him about Rudy Giuliani, what happened there with Sacha Baron Cohen.
He was sticking his shirt back in, apparently.
To be fair, until we see the video, we can't.
Did you read the piece? Did you?
I read a few. I did read a few.
They were non-pieces. Come on, it was nothing going. I mean, and it's pretty.
It's a very.
It's very set up. I don't. It's a bit like, you know, those. Don Jolie does it. You know, those type of comedy sketches where they try and convince somebody next to them that they've had bad news and get them to start crying and stuff like that.
Like
you know,
pranky people. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised at Sacha Baron Cohen. I'm surprised at him. It's cheap.
I don't like that. I don't like it. It's cheap.
But
he was setting him up that way.
He didn't. From what I read, he didn't do that. It was reviewers who got the early copy. they put it out and said, "Oh, there's this bit," or he has his hand down his pants in the trailer, something like that. It wasn't Sacha Baron Cohen. He didn't start it.
It was for his movie, right? For the new.
Yeah, it is for his movie. He was set up. He was, it was.
Oh yeah, it's definitely set up because I mean,
but the
man was there in his pink bikini or something.
Yeah, but the hands. No. He was interviewed by what he thought was a conservative interviewer, which was Borat's daughter. But at the end of the interview, I don't think this was intended for the film. He lay down on the bed and apparently put his hands down his pants. He said he was tucking his shirt in. We've got a very poor resolution image that's been taken as a screen grab from the clip. And the story was run by a number of, I guess.
But the wording of it, that she was a 15-year-old, a 24-year-old masquerading as a 15-year-old. I mean, that's entrapment of sorts. You know what I mean? Because it looks like, well, hold on a second.
But we haven't seen it though. We haven't seen it, and as you know, I think until we see it,
I'd love to hear Derek's take on it, because it looks like a Democrat grab. It really looks like a very desperate Dems kind of grab for something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because of in light of Hunter Biden and what's not.
But Borat's out tomorrow. I think it's streaming tomorrow, so we can all
and he's
watch it
in that other movie. I started watching it, the Chicago 7. Do you remember?
Yeah, I saw that. That's very good.
Yeah. I started watching it, but it was one of those that you need to hang on every word.
No, it's dense, and it's all factually true, and he plays Abby Hoffman and does a great job. Yeah. But unless you're really, and I vaguely remember that stuff. I mean, I wasn't really old enough, but it's the yippies and the end of the hippie era, and it was a big deal and even still when I was it resonated still. So it's a very interesting, but it's not a great movie. It's not a great 2-hour watch, frankly.
It's probably a bit of virtue signaling as well. That they're all doing this. Now, it's like the Comey rule coming out as well. They really want to get Trump out, don't they? They're trying everything.
Well, that's what I was thinking when I saw was it one of the English papers or wherever it was? It was a respected New York Post or the Washington Post, I think. And just the journalism was just appalling. It was just awful, because there's all kinds of tacit kind of pedophilia things. It's like, well, no, there's no question of that. The girl, in any case, is 24, so certainly questionably, Giuliani, I don't know what he's like. I don't know him personally. The whole thing just stunk to high heaven.
We'll find out tomorrow. The film is out streaming tomorrow, so we can reserve judgment on it.
Well, I tell you one thing, there'll be queues to see it now. No publicity is, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Well, especially with a movie coming out. Anyway, it's nice if we know soon enough. But anyway, there's not been a bit of crappy week on the election front over in America, hasn't it?
Well, the last debates tonight, actually, isn't it? So, we can see that, I suppose, in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, if you want to watch. Don't know if I want to.
No, it's not going to be. I mean, those elections we've talked about it before. Elections the debates are.
Debates are way down on the list of I think in the campaign plan.
Vanessa, I wanted to. We have a few minutes to. I wanted the mother and baby scandal and the covering up, and there was a vote in the Dáil today.
Very disappointed.
Yeah,
I have to say this. I really thought Roderick O'Connor would to push back a bit more. Now this is what I'm thinking.
Just before you go into it, do you want to maybe give a summary for anyone who's missed it, because a lot happened today?
Well, I won't go into too much of the detail, other than to say that the vote took place and they're now sealing the mother and baby home records for 30 years instead of the original 75.
Parts of the records, not all of the records.
Parts of them, and then with TUSLA will have access to certain elements of the data.
So to clarify, so basically, a scandal in the country, a massive scandal in the country. These records have been sealed. Parts of the records have been sealed, and there was no consultation with any of the victims. Am I correct in saying that? No,
there were. Yeah.
And this was approved by.
I can't speak for the different victims groups. I'm not going to speak for any particular group, but it definitely seems that there was a large cohort of those whose information it is, who own that information. I mean, we've agreed that data about yourself that confirmed that is about you. You own it. You know what I mean? It's that all those different groups of people don't seem to have been part of it. And I have to put the hands up here. I really did expect Roderick O'Gorman to do better.
O'Gorman,
and I stood in front of him when there was that attack, that gay slur, homophobic slur, and about having a picture taken with Peter Thatcher and stuff like that. And there was definitely some motives behind that, and I stood in front of him on that. And I did expect more from them, but having said that, I wonder, was he getting one or the other? Was it the changes to direct provision, or was it this? I wonder, was one a trade-off against the other? Because the new rules for direct provision, and I now when they took direct provision away from Justice and Helen McEntee as part of the announcement of this new government, and they put it to him, like, it was one of the best decisions I've heard out of this government, the last government, and the one before that. Great idea. So, but he got that announcement yesterday. So I wonder, was there a trade-off at cabinet? He could only have one or the other.
That's like
that's politics.
It's a moral Hobson's choice. I mean, what is his role? What is his portfolio? He's the minister of what? Roderick O'Gorman.
God.
But
it's
children and something or other, isn't it?
Children and affairs and direct provision was taken out of Justice. I'll get the full title there now, folks.
It's some weird.
It's Catherine Sapone's old job, anyway.
That's right. Yeah.
But is this not an incredibly undemocratic act?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where's the Freedom of Information Act? Or do we have one even? Do you know what I mean?
Where in the national interest is it to cover up one of the biggest scandals? And
exactly. What's the motivation? What is the motivation there? Seriously.
It's Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth.
Right. So again, can you answer, Vanessa? What is the motivation between not making this available?
It's a backroom deal. It has to be. Why would you seal? The only information you would seal is if it's secret and it has the capacity to, put security issues at risk.
Yeah.
Or there's or say out of respect for a former minister that, you know what I mean, you might seal something, in the Department of Justice or whatever, that he made a settlement with such and such a person, and that such and such a person turned out to be whatever. You could see where they might see that information, stuff like that. But there's absolutely no reason why mother and baby home records should be sealed.
None whatsoever.
None at all. Nobody's birth record should be sealed.
Yeah.
If that person doesn't want anyone to see their birth record, let them go, get it, and go and apply to a judge and ask the judge to put an embargo on anyone else seeing it, because that's your information.
Fair enough.
I'm going to get a barring order, or whatever. That's put it into their hands. It's not the state's property. It's the property of the people whose information it is. The fact that there's this is still that they even got the 30 years. I beggars belief. And when I heard the 75 first, I go, oh, Jesus, this crowd now are just taking the piss, Like, between them, they still haven't stumped up the compensation that they were supposed to pay for. Oh, lads, I speak with Kevin. I haven't spoken to Kevin Higgins in a while now. Well, certainly not in a couple of months, and because he's self-isolating, he's totally cocooned. But Jesus, it just makes no sense. And I really did expect more of Roderick O'Gorman on this, but I do really suspect it was a trade-off. It was one or the other, and at the last cabinet meeting. But nobody, the fact that even the entire Green Party supported it,
But like in a democratic,
I can't get over it. I can't get over it.
Forgive my ignorance now, but in a democratic society, how do the citizens, or more importantly, the victims, how do victims of this? There's no recourse. This is it now.
No redress is closed, sealed.
There's
That's
no
shocking.
legal,
For
no
30
legal.
years.
That is
That's Stalin-esque. That's what that is. You
in
know
a
what I mean?
democratic society. That is that's unbelievable.
And I mean, you're not looking for state secrets. Do you know what I mean? You're not looking to see who Charlie Haughey really met at such and such a place with Neil Blaney or whatever. You know, you're not looking for that information. You're looking for your date of birth, or you're looking for your mother's name, or you want to know where your sister landed. Where did your sister die? Was she adopted, or do you know, or your child? Like you're not looking.
Oh.
That's what you're looking for. You're looking for personal information that's personal to you, and nobody else's business. Like that's what I don't. That's what I do. I don't get how they made it their business. It's none of their business.
That's unbelievable.
And the vote, the entire government voted. Not one dissent. It just shows that this crowd are in it for the long haul. They are glued to each other.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating.
I did expect more of him, but I really think he was given a choice in cabinet, direct provision or the other one or the other.
Well,
it would be interesting now to know. Well, we'll never know this because this will be sealed as well, and we'll all be long dead by the time it's released on New Year's Day some year into the future. Like, did the religious orders really? What kind of pressure was put on to get the 30 years? Because they wanted 75, but to still get it over the line, what kind of pressure? Like, were they going to shut down the schools, take back a few hospitals? Like all the maternity hospitals are voluntaries. They're not the HSE hospitals.
75 years.
That's what they wanted.
Fucking hell, like.
We shouldn't laugh. It's not fun. It's not funny. I know it's not funny. But
anyone who voted for that needs to
all the government, the entire government.
They all did, Neil. Every one of them.
And there was two.
They have failed
independents, I think.
They have failed the victims, and they've failed their country that they're voted to serve. It's
shocking.
But like, it's not even, you said that they failed the country. Like, they will be related to somebody whose name is in there. Do you know, we're not all that far away from each other. We're all related to somebody in those records. We have to be. Do you know what I mean? It could be a great granduncle or a fifth cousin or something. Like we are. You know, I knew girls that were in Besborough. It's sad to believe that. Like, I know girls that were in my class that were sent to Besborough. You know, it's hard to believe that this. But that, the 80s, I think, was an awful time to be a teenager, because you knew you were on the edge of change. The world was going to change, and we were still stuck in it, you know. But I think it actually demonstrates that this government has the potential to do its full term. There was no dissension.
I don't know if it'll last.
I think it will now. This was obvious.
On this cheery note, I'm going to jump to the chapter. There's actually been a lot of comments in there. Janet has kindly made chocolate hazelnut and eaten it all and disappeared.
She didn't plug the recipe. She
didn't. Lily reckons the virus will peter out and we'll be shaking hands again early next year. So that's great. Hopefully you're right.
We'll be slow dancing. We'll have to do a party in the studio. We'll be doing a slow dancing set.
So you're mad about the slow
Jimmy can do his Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven, there you go, that'll do. Was that your slow dance favourite, was it, Vanessa?
You know what, in Con years ago, right, I know this was like 35 years ago, But you knew what song was always coming next from the DJ.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the Stairway then was, if you hadn't got the shift off your man by the time Stairway came up in the slow set, you were not getting one.
We also have Derek appears to be in the chat pit. I hope he's not driving and messaging. He heard my comment about San Francisco and the Bay Area, and in his words, Neil doesn't believe the figures, or Neil believes the figures about schools, but doesn't believe the figures about San Francisco opening up. Cheeky Derek. So Derek has provided some figures. He's claiming, or sorry, not he. I googled and he is correct. The media is claiming, or the government is claiming there, that San Francisco has a case rate of 1 per 100,000. And the area Derek lives in is an area called Santa Clara, and that's 4 cases per 100,000. Whatever about Santa Clara, because it's fairly urbanized. It's very suburban. San Francisco being 1 case per 100,000, I smell a rat there. I'll have to look into what's going on that they have 1 per 100,000. He's got some comments about what we said about Rudy. I can't repeat them on the internet.
What he said about what?
On Rudy Giuliani, I can't repeat them. Yep. And that's all from the chat.
But come here, you'd have to wonder about Rudy's ego. If he went back to a hotel bedroom with a young woman, he hardly thought he was in with a shout.
There you go. Well,
you're speculating without having seen it. You're speculating.
Yeah, well, I know, but still, like, Jesus.
But you don't. Well, Vanessa, you don't know men as well as you think you do, then, because let's be honest, you know.
Speaking of Borat and things entertaining, Vanessa, you've got a picture of Metallica behind you. Is that Metallica?
Yeah, Metallica.
That's Metallica.
That's Puddle of Mud.
Puddle of Mud.
Yeah.
It is not. Don't mind them. It's Blondie. This is their 20. Look at Debbie Harry.
She's 97 years old. She looks fantastic.
She's a hologram.
Well, I've every intention of aging like Debbie Harry. By the way,
but she's a very good role model for your age, because she's probably nearly 80 actually.
She's great.
80, Dutch 75.
Okay.
Yeah, because she'll be 76 on the tour, and the reason why I have it up is they've announced a tour for it's November 2021.
That's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, that's not going to happen. Forget about it.
I didn't realize that she had five grandchildren.
Stop it. So that's your man.
Is that true? Well, no, yeah, she was married, but he was sick for years. He couldn't.
She minded him, didn't she?
Yeah, but what did they have? Well, you know, not to be too.
Well, no, I did see her the last time. The second last time in the Point, and the voice wasn't great. But you know, but I suspect 2 or 3 of the lads there are newcomers in the band.
No, there's only Clem Clemson and Chris Stein. They're the only original members. The rest of them are all ringers.
And Debbie.
And Debbie, of course.
Yeah.
Jimmy, you had a nice story you shared with us before we went.
A couple of stories. I actually played with Clem in LA. I did some gigs with him, the drummer. And I met Debbie Harry when I was 19. The day I got signed to my first big record deal with the Bogey Boys, they signed us, they signed Blondie, and they signed the Two Tone label the same day. So they had a big party in London. And I got to hang out with Debbie Harry. And I remember somebody telling me she was 33. And I thought, God, she's ancient. And she looks great. She looks fantastic for such an old one, you know.
She was 31. She was 31 when they had their first hit. Yeah.
Right. So, well, there you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I thought she was ancient. We thought she was, geez, she looks great for an old one, you know.
I know she's great. I know she's real rock and roll. And even when you play some of the really early stuff, like the late 70s, early 80s stuff,
the late
stands up. It absolutely does.
The stuff from the Ritz and from the CBGBs, the Jack Valentine stuff, that's where they were really good. They were kind of an edgy punk band. Fantastic. They became a pop sensation, of course. You know.
But they made punk pop though.
Well, they kind of certainly helped.
Yeah. And she was an icon as well, and
she was a punk. It was weird. She was a punk icon because 3 or 4 years prior to that, she'd been in a band called The Wind in the Willows, which was like some hippie deal. Yeah. And there are some pictures of her around in the flowy dresses and the kind of Stevie Nicks kind of shoot. And then she.
I'm a huge fan, and like you're saying now, it's not going to happen. But anyway, viewers, there's a Cardiff date, a Glasgow date, and then I think they're doing about 10 gigs. They've done 10 dates, if not more, over 2 weeks. So they are putting in the mileage over a short time. So it's November next year. I think I might like to go to the Hull one because I'd like to see the museum there now as well. Yeah, so folks, Debbie is up, and that's the promo photograph. So it's not like one from a few years ago. And Garbage are the support act.
Oh.
And they supported them a few years ago in an American tour. So I think it's like the follow-on of that tour, the 2017 one. So we'll never know. But I hope it goes ahead.
Well, I'd go ahead and buy a ticket, but I'll put money that it won't happen. That's...
You mean you won't get us on the guest list and into the? I'm with the band.
Yeah. Where you want to see them in Hull? Hull, is that where you want to go and see them?
Well, I think so. I would, because I haven't. They have the big new museum there as well, and I did sort of a piece to camera here about the Fisherman's Charter and the women that got that signed, and it started in Hull. So I think I'd like to see it. I've never been to Hull either.
Well, interestingly, my favourite poet, Philip Larkin. I don't know if you know or a fan.
The World War I poet.
No, he died in 1983. He's the guy.
Okay,
they fuck you up, your mum and dad. You know that one? They may not mean to about to do. And the Whitsun Weddings. My favourite ever poet. And I didn't know very much about him, but I had a girlfriend once years and years ago, and she was in college in Hull University. And I used to go over and see her, on a Monday, hang out for a couple of days. He did have bands playing there, Horselips and people. And he was the librarian that time in that university. He spent all his life as a librarian in Hull University. He turned down the poet laureate. He didn't want to be involved in any of that. He figured that he wanted to be a poet, so he wanted to get some sort of academic job that wouldn't require too much, wouldn't take up too much hours, and pay him enough money. That's what he did. So he was the librarian there. All the students knew him. He wouldn't talk to anybody. He was proper curmudgeon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. So anyway, that's the plan anyway, whether we get to go to it or not. And I think it's very brave for her to go on tour at this era of her life. So she's still creating. So I have every intention of aging like her. Although Marco would say she's had the fillers and the puller and all that.
Well, fair enough. Who cares? A little bit of help is nice.
Well, if I had the money, I'd be doing it.
What's to say? A little bit of help is worth a lot of pity.
Well, do you know what? A Frilly King column years ago wrote about why wouldn't you do it if you had the money? Like, of course, if you had a crack over the front door, you'd get that fixed. So if if I had the money now, I would, no problem. I would be up and in and
it's an interesting thing because people like her. I'm not speaking for. I don't know.
I'd look like Kris Jenner.
But no, there are people, because when people don't see a rock star for they don't forgive them getting old. They don't that's why Mick Jagger still, what's he? He's 112 now, and he still kind of looks like he's maybe 50. Kind of, you don't know the hair and the thing and whatever. Yeah. So because people don't forgive you getting old if you're like an icon like that, So go for it. Get the little fillers, get the pips, whatever the hell.
Well, I need to earn the money first.
Well, of course.
I'll have to. Yeah. Well, if somebody wants to sponsor me to get the Botox, I'd be. I'd like to. I could be a guinea pig or something. Anyway, so that's Debbie, Harry, and Blondie back out on the road. So we all want I think we all want to see it happen, whether we get to go to it or not. I think we want to see a tour happen. Let's be honest. This could be their last chance to tour anyway.
Yeah, people are living longer. They'll tour away till they drop. But I mean, prior to COVID. But I mean, Live Nation announced just a few months ago that they're not even making any plans anymore to 2023.
Listen, I saw two great movies at the weekend now.
Okay.
What to see?
I saw Wolf Snow Hollow, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, and The Devil Has a Name. Both movies brilliant. You would particularly love The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Sounds like a kids movie. What is it?
It actually, you know what? You could watch it with kids. It's very funny. It's basically a werewolf in this sort of remote town in Utah, I think, and he's attacking people, right? But it turns out actually it's this weird guy. I won't give too much away. You have to watch it.
Is it on Netflix or is it where did you see this? on the Apple TV or whatever.
I think it's on the Netflix.
Netflix. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it is very camp, and do you know what it is actually? Do you know Fargo, the movie when the original Fargo came out? No, I know now they've done it to death with the TV series and the spin-offs. But you know the impact the first one had. This is it. I'm not going to say too much about it, but it's written and produced by the main lead in it. And that guy, Forster, he died earlier on this year. That actor, oh, hang on, I'll have to get his name there now for you guys. Because Jim Cummings directed it and wrote, and he wrote it, and he's the main lead in it. And it's Robert Foster plays his dad.
Oh, he died.
Yeah, sheriff. Yeah, and he... The son sort of is the marshal, but he's also an alcoholic, and he goes to meetings. But I'm just going to say there is a large cast in it, and there's so much movement and talk. I think an awful lot of it was improv. You know, it's just I really recommend it. It's a wide open cast. No one person outperforms another, and they're all very interesting, quirky characters. And the other movie I saw was The Devil Has a Name. And it's about it's about oil, and I'm just going to call up the cast there now for you. But that was a great one, and in one way it's a bit like this this movie that I've just spoke about there, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, in that as an ensemble cast, and no one person outperforms another. This one is it creeps up on you, it ticks along, you know. And oh no, I put up the wrong one, sorry. The devil has a name. See, Neil is all organized like this,
very organized.
Yeah. So yeah, The Devil Has a Name, and it's on the Amazon, it says here.
So is The Wolf of Snow Hollow, are you sure it's on Netflix?
Yeah, very quirky. It is. And it's a Fargo-esque type caper, and this one, The Devil Has a Name, is it has a large cast in it, but the writing and the performances, they all rub in and all right. It's got like an ensemble cast, and there's a caper unwinding in it as well. So both great movies. Now I'm just looking here on the IMDb, and The Devil Has a Name didn't do too well on the scores. But I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a great movie. It was a change, I suppose, but it was a great movie. The Devil Has a Name, and
I'll check it out, because I've nearly finished Netflix at this point. I'm scraping the barrel, really. You know?
So that one's on the Amazon. Let me just make sure what The Wolf is on anyway. But they were great movies anyway. Anyway, what about you guys? What were you watching?
I'm kind of desperate at the moment. I'm watching this thing called La Révolution. It's a French thing, and I thought it might have something to do with the lead up to the French Revolution, but it's actually a kind of a semi-werewolf thing where the blue bloods and stuff. It's 8 parts. Watching that is kind of a bit strange. It's not great. The Lovecraft thing, which started off fantastic, I was watching that because I was a fan of H.P. Lovecraft. That kind of went into just crazy territory as well.
He hated the Irish H.P. Lovecraft.
Did he? He was a problematic gentleman. He was he hated black people also, I think, and because a lot of the stuff
I loved it in a way because I loved where it was taking me places that I never thought of, and I loved the whole. I thought it was very slick and very sharp, like the design and the style, the wardrobe.
Oh, that was brilliant.
And everything.
That was fantastic.
It was really. It was like almost precision, but do you know what I really appreciated was this whole that they were all into science fiction and sort of astrophysics and the galaxy,
but in fairness, that was Lovecraft's deal. It was all about that astro, theology.
Yeah, but it was that this community, this black community, and in segregated America, that they were all involved, that they had such a keen interest, and they had the books, and they, looking into the symbols and deciphering all. I loved that being introduced to that.
I think it jumped too many sharks for me at some point. And that guy, the lead guy, he cried more than anybody I've ever seen. He cried about 6 times per episode. He was in tears.
Oh, Atticus.
Atticus, yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that got really started to rankle after a while. Will you stop crying every 3 minutes? Seriously, dude? Yeah. There's Derek.
Hi guys, sorry I'm very late. Just
Oh, look at this.
Just trying to park.
Oh, the
So-
chaos.
The chaos. My lovely wife was driving for me. I intended to be more active, but just the way things were was too difficult. We're just here in the centre of San Francisco now. I know Neil was doubting their figures, as if a country as transparent and open as America would mislead the public. But the figures do seem to be good. As I say, we're heading into the Museum of Modern Art here at the moment. We're open at 25% capacity, timed entrance, and the place is busy. I mean, I just mentioned there in the chat pit that I've yet to see somebody not wearing a mask, just driving through the city centre, and whether people are on their bikes or whether they're whether they're in their office clothes, they're wearing their masks, you know. So I think it's an interesting comparison to home, the way that things are really looking up here in our area, in the Bay Area as a whole, but particularly County of Santa Clara, County of Alameda, and County of San Francisco. They're all seem to be going in the right direction. There are some counties near us that have, instead of going from red to yellow, they've went from red back up to purple because cases have increased. But certainly, in my experience here, the 3 things seem to be like masks, people wearing masks, people respecting social distance, and distance learning in schools. They seem to be, I cannot see any other difference as to what was done here as to what was done at home, other than, say, compliance and the schools. But I don't know.
Well, looks as we're just fucked anyway. So listen, you'll never be able to come back here. This is going to be like The Walking Dead. You'll never get back to Ireland. You'll be like that poor girl that had walked from Seattle to New York to try and get a boat to bring her back to England to her kids. That's not going to happen. You'll never be back again.
We'd really hope to be home at Christmas time. You know, we haven't been home since last Christmas, and it's a long time to go without seeing family and friends. And we really want to get home, but it's looking more and more difficult just by reports that we're getting. Just from talking to you guys, seeing the figures, looks pretty sad at home, I'd say. It seems pretty sad.
Let me just check spaces, okay?
Yeah, sure. Look, we're just making it up as we go along now at this stage.
That's the clear thing, that, like, at least here, right? Neil was asking about figures. There is a clear set of figures that we know that if Santa Clara messes up and goes above 5 cases per 100,000, we know we're going back to the red. You know, that's like it's laid out very clearly. So there's an announcement each Monday, or sorry, each Tuesday, about how you're doing, and that determines where you're going to be for the next week. And in order to move out of the tier we're in now, for us in Santa Clara to get to San Francisco's level, we have to be 3 weeks in that tier. So even if we go in a really good week,
Morgan, you go
we don't automatically move
There's more space.
to the next tier. You have to be 3 weeks in your tier before you move.
Have you loads of room your side?
But it's really clear. There's a clear plan. You know, and at home there's no metrics. There's no sort of like, okay, what's the exit strategy? How do we get out of what happens after 6 weeks? Like, where are we going to be?
No, we're nowhere. No, you're not going to get those answers here. And even when the tracking and tracing collapsed, it was only after being pushed they admitted it, that they admit that there was a problem at the weekend. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're at the moment, we know we're locked down for 6 weeks. That's all we know. That's it.
No, bring it. Yeah.
Do you know what we could do? Could we move? Could we go to Santa Clara? Have Christmas in Santa Clara. We
Sounds
could do
good.
that.
Jeez, I'd love to have you over. 'Cause we don't know what we're going to do at Christmas. We would definitely love to have a bit of company. A bit of an Irish Christmas. So if you can make your way across, you're more than welcome.
Are you on the green list, Derek?
The green list?
Yeah.
Derek's house is on the green list.
What's the green list?
Yeah, that's how disconnected from his homeland he is. He doesn't have a clue what the green list is. Don't tell him.
Yeah. I thought it was like a Santi list or something.
It's a list. It's the list of expats
It
who
is
are
actually.
the list of expats who are considered.
We're just careful, girls. I was hoping to be able to just show you the park and just show you what's happening. Actually, I'm the only person here without a mask at the moment, so let me just get a mask.
We're getting comments about your beard, Derek. People are very impressed with.
Actually, that is impressive beard, Gordon, in a week.
Yeah.
Very manly.
Oh my.
There you go.
Oh, look at this cement roadstone. Jesus, Lily. I'm not that
We'll be out of the
bad.
car park in 2 minutes. So maybe I'd better off contact you then.
Actually, you look like a doctor there in your blue scrubs. Look.
I don't know if I'd like a Carlo man.
Blue t-shirt. You look. You're. You know, in scrubs.
We're losing him there. He can't hear us.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But look,
what were you watching anyway? What were you watching this week, Neil?
I was watching Come Dine With Me on Netflix.
You weren't.
I watched a couple of horror films, but they're not worth mentioning. I did watch a bizarre one called The Girl on the Third Floor, which had gotten some good reviews. It's on Netflix. I think it was either The Girl on the Third Floor or The Devil on the Third Floor. Awful haunted house thing. A man who goes ahead of his pregnant wife to a haunted house that used to be a brothel. And
Neil, just to cut across you there, you're involved in drama and improv and all that stuff, right? So you have some, I know guys, musicians and cinematographers and guys, budding directors and stuff in America, friends from years ago. And I have a good idea how incredibly difficult it is to make a movie, right? You pitch a script, you get someone interested, there's several meetings, it takes months, years, right? How do these really crap movies get made? Can anybody explain that to me?
But it's about the money. It's such a tight industry. That's why we see so many reboots, remakes, and sequels. Because the nostalgia effect. So independent films, are the more low. Hollywood makes the bigger budget films. There's so much money invested in it. They need to get a return on their product, and for a big film to flop, it can be disastrous. And so if you I just did Derek's.
I think that, but you know what? I think the model is that they have one hit for every 20.
But there are some of them, Vanessa, some of them are like, at some point you have to go, lads, we're 4 weeks into shooting. This is a ball of shit. This is let's stop.
But
you do have to expand beyond the Hollywood theater, like what we would call the international films or foreign films. There, you kind of start to have to go in that direction, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's far better, but it doesn't get, people have a thing for foreign language films for a start, and Netflix has a huge catalog.
Oh, incidentally, just before we go on, I watched Wings of Desire again recently. Have you all seen that? Wim Wenders.
Who's in it?
Wim Wenders, Bruno, the guy that died last year. You should watch that movie.
I haven't seen
What's it called?
Wings of Desire, 1985, I think, by Wim Wenders.
Okay.
It's Bruno Gantz, the guy that died last year.
Okay.
I watched it in 2 hours. Fantastic movie.
But I look at some movies, right, and it just looks like all the lads put this together so they could go off to, like, do you remember the one was Greed? Is that what it's called? Greed with the guy, what's his name? The English comedian who does Alan Partridge.
Oh yeah, Steve Coogan. I didn't
Steve
see
Coogan.
that. I knew that
It-
looked like it's.
It looked like all they all got together and managed to just put this together for the price of them all going on piss and grease for a month on a yacht or something, you know. Or there was the remake of the book. The Gladiator guy was in it. A year in France or something, and it just had the look of them all just going on the piss in France for the week. That's what it was all about, like them all getting together, all the lovies, you know. I just putting it because you know the original Ocean's 11, the first one, that was a movie that kind of came out of the lads gigging in Vegas and to offset the spending they were doing.
But it looked like that. I mean, it was really just a kind of smug, kind of lovey fest, the whole thing, really. You know what I mean?
The original Ocean's 11.
11, 12, 13, all of them. You know what I mean?
Shocking. Well, no, the new ones, Ocean's 11, 12, 13, and 8 with the ladies.
That was awful. That was awful. But I can't say that because it makes me sound like I'm homophobic then, I guess. But it was terrible.
I loved the actor in it. Oh, the Indian actor. Well, she's Indian American. Mindy. She wrote and starred in the one. Is it Late Night with? Oh, I'm terrible with names. Do you know Emma Thompson?
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, but that girl, she's in Ocean's 8. She plays Patton's part, and I knew she was going to. I knew people were going to really warm to her, and she was going to. You're going to see her in a lot more stuff. But she wrote that movie with Emma Thompson.
That was bearable, and Emma Thompson is hard going most of the time, but that was pretty good.
I enjoyed that movie, but she made it easier to watch than Mindy. Yeah,
she was good.
I might have mentioned this before. I'm not sure, and it might have even featured on the site. There's a trailer for a film called Fat Man with Mel Gibson. Don't read anything about it. Just watch the trailer.
Really?
I'm not going to say anything else. Just don't read anything about it. Just look at the trailer. Don't look.
Do you know Mel did a movie in Dublin there a few years ago with Sean Penn called The Madman and the Professor.
Oh.
It's on the Amazon, folks. If you get, do you know who made it? He's a friend of Luke Brennan's. Kelleher. To the people that made Black 47.
I enjoyed that movie. That was good.
Oh, I thought it's one of the best Irish movies I've ever seen. Yeah. I loved it. I loved the whole idea of the Western. This was a new idea, a new version of a Western, you know. I loved that movie. I thought it was a fabulous movie. But the people that Macdara Kelleher, I think is his name, is one of the producers. He's involved in this movie with Mel Gibson and Sean Penn, and it was filmed here. It's a very interesting story, and the performances are very engaging, actually. And it's a true story. I'm not going to say more, but it's The Madman and the Professor, and it's on the Amazon. So most of us have the Amazon now for free. So dig it out, folks. But you know what? I'd say there's a huge trove of movies in the Amazon if we just kind of, instead of the little picture coming up in front of us and just clicking and then saying, oh, the people who watched that movie watch this one as well. So you end up watching that. But I'd say if you went into the directory and put in anything at all, I'd say there's a whole just a treasure trove of stuff. So I'm going to see is that Wings of Desire on it now, and I'll watch it.
Check it out if it is. It's good. It's 2 hours now. You might not like it. It's a little arty, but it's brilliant. It's fantastic.
But say for me, it's who's in it. Who is it?
Bruno Gantz is fantastic.
I think.
Well, you see, if I don't like it, I can just pull up San Andreas, and that makes it worth.
Oh, good luck. On that note.
Well, Neil.
Yeah, Derek.
You just hear me. Just on what Vanessa was saying there about the movies on Amazon and Netflix. Excuse me. And the way what they recommend you. Like if we logged on, all of us to our Amazon account or our Netflix account, what's recommended is different for everybody based on what we've watched before, right? And what I've been saying about artificial intelligence, that this is part of it, that the algorithm for Netflix knows us better than we know ourselves.
Have you seen The Social Dilemma? Have you seen that, Derek?
Yeah, I did. Very good. Very good.
What's that one again? That sounds like I did see it.
The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. Brilliant. Watch that.
It's about the danger of what Facebook and
Twitter and Netflix and all know about you. But what they're maintain is that it's going to be a case where they're going to know your emotions. So let's say how you react when you hear a certain note in a song, or when you hear a certain joke in a film. That it would become that advanced that they will be able to manipulate your emotions in the way they're able to manipulate what you watch on Netflix. And that's where it's going. I know that sounds like tinfoil hat stuff. I know that, but
no, I can understand that. But you're right. Listen, I'd watch any old shite. So if anyone ever looks at what's recommended for me, it'd be great fun. I mean, I'd watch anything. I don't need to watch a movie that I have to talk about afterwards at all and figure out all the mistakes or what I have to sit down. I want movies where fellas taking their shirts off and boxing the head off each other. And that's me. I love that. That's my perfect night.
We use the same Amazon account. Amazon to get stuff delivered and stuff. So you want to see some of my recommendations that I get from Amazon. Derek, based on your previous purchase, we think you would love these shoes by fucking high heel shoes, or we think you would like this this makeup, because Pamela's doing
right.
Using my account, but so now Amazon are recommending like makeup and high heels and dresses and stuff for me. So,
lovely. Well, I do.
Derek,
we keep separate accounts here.
Your private life is your own, Derek. It really is.
Well, that's my excuse, Jimmy. I'm sick of doing it,
But about the artificial intelligence, though, that only relies on historic behavior and learned behavior. It doesn't create new stuff. You'll still need the humans to create the next great song.
But here's the thing. As artificial intelligence gets cleverer, it's going to be able to create stuff. They use an example in that book that I keep talking about how a computer has now trained itself to beat the best computers. The computer trained itself.
Oh, shut up. I tell you what, Blondie didn't need artificial intelligence and they will outlive all of us. Isn't that right, Terry? Isn't that right, lads? Blondie's songs and Debbie Harry, they will outlive all of us.
Well, Debbie,
those songs will go on and on.
Okay.
What do you say now? Go on.
I really hope you're right.
I really hope you're right. Jimmy, what were you going to say?
No. I was talking more about the nanotechnology for Debbie. I mean, the likes of them, if they start getting nanobots in to give them another 30 years, she'd live to be 150 probably.
The stem cells apparently.
Or whatever. Well, the nano things with the plant, put them in your blood stream and it goes and fixes your heart or whatever the hell. That's the next thing. Ray Kurzweil. You're probably familiar with him, Derek. Ray Kurzweil and Graham Hancock and those guys. They talk about this stuff, about the singularity and the AI taking over.
Okay, not no.
So, on that note, I have bed to go to. Some of us need our sleep. So thanks for joining us late in the day. We'll have to argue about your figures another day. Enjoy the sunshine. You're purposely only doing it to rub it in our face.
Don't forget to get sourdough starters there. Keep them in the garage for myself and Neil.
I hope the family have a day off and you aren't Skyping from work.
Listen, sorry for being late. Definitely, you're more welcome over here for Christmas if you can make it. Please do. Please come.
What time's dinner? I'll be there.
I'll do the dinner.
We can be flexible. If you trust
we'll bring the parcel with us, Jimmy. We'll bring the old parcel from
Bring the lovely parcels from
bring
home.
the parcel with us.
Bring Brennan's bread and tea bags.
There you go.
Potato. Thanks, Jerry, for joining us.
Okay, thanks. Have a nice trip. It was nice having a little walking tour there of San Francisco, wasn't it?
Sure. It could have been a green screen for all we know.
Well,
but you're coming from the BBC studio there.
I am. Got my Blue Peter badge somewhere. Jimmy, thanks for tonight.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
I
enjoyed the chaos and the mania. It was all good.
Absolutely. Vanessa, thanks as always.
Good night, everyone.
Celebrity accountant. in the shimmering jumper.
Gans, that's shimmering. Is it shimmering?
It's a sexy jumper, sexy Gansy.
Sexy
Yeah,
jumper.
All right. Okay.
We will be back next week. Actually, I won't be back next week, but the show will be back next week. But we're back on the site tomorrow. If anyone has, we're always looking for voices. If anyone wants to come on, say hello, say some words, give us something to talk about, please let us know. And failing that, have a nice weekend. Stay safe. Stay indoors and all of that good stuff. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, folks.
See, have a nice bank holiday weekend.
Oh,
is it bank holiday? Oh, God.
it has no meaning.
It is. It's